Welcome to this week's broadcast with Dr. Nugent. If you have any questions regarding this program, please send an email to ccqa@manatech.com. Let's hear from Manatech's Global Wellness Director, Dr. Steve Nugent.
Hello, my friends. Dr. Steve Nugent here. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about fat loss versus weight loss. Or a better and more scientific way to approach this would be to discuss body composition improvement. And in fact, there is something new called the Body Composition Improvement Index, or BCI. Now, everyone's heard about BMI, and of course, everyone knows how to stand on the scale. And we're going to talk about those ideas in the next few minutes. And in the next broadcast, we'll talk about some of the technologies that you can use for improving your body composition. But first, we really need to get this idea down pat. As far as I know, looking into the historical records, as far back as I could go, I found references to weight rather than fat as the outcome measure, if you will, or the final analysis on whether or not you succeeded on your diet. The problem with using weight as opposed to body composition is that your overall weight doesn't tell you really what your body is composed of. And let me give you an example before we pursue this in further detail. Let's say that we have two men of identical height. They are both the same age. They are the same race. They are the same in virtually everything, and they are the same scale weight. We're going to keep this in American terms for now, but you could translate this to the metric system, certainly. So let's say that we have two individuals who are 220 pounds, or approximately 100 kilograms, and each of them is 5 foot 11 inches tall. Now, according to BMI, that's the body mass index, and the BMI, by the way, has been used by just about everybody as a supposed outcome measure of diets, to see if the diets worked or not, or to see if you're generally healthy in terms of your body composition. And it doesn't work. Now, I'll show you why it doesn't work, but right back to our two examples here. Now, according to BMI, these two men would be obese. Now, let's take a look at why this doesn't work. Well, the first man is a bodybuilder, and as a bodybuilder, he's mostly muscle mass. In fact, he's only 5% fat mass. All right. What about the other man who's the same scale weight, the same height, the same age? What about the other man? Well, he's your kind of average adult guy. He doesn't do much activity, eats the wrong foods, sits around too much watching TV. In many countries, we call him a couch potato. Well, he may weigh 220 pounds, or 100 kilograms approximately, but he's 30% body fat. Now, the two men weigh the same amount when they stand on the scale, but they clearly are not the same in terms of their body composition. They are also not the same in terms of their health, because the most recent scientific research indicates that as many as 41 different health concerns are related to excess body fat. 41. Now, I know of no other single causal factor except one, that would be oxidative stress, which is linked to 68 different health concerns. So, excess body fat then is number 2 in this hierarchy, if you will, of the number of things that can affect adversely as it relates to your health simply by having that excess body fat. Now, make no mistake, body fat is necessary. There's a reason that we have it. And there's a reason that we have natural mechanisms within our body to ensure that we continue to have it. But those mechanisms are quite ancient, and they no longer are serving the same purpose that they once did. We're stuck with them anyway. It's part of a genetic program. We'll talk about that in a few moments. So the situation is this. If you want to know if you're truly healthy, what you have to do is assess, or really measure, your amount of body fat as it relates to muscle mass, as it relates to bone mass, and of course, water weight. Because you have these 4 compartments, if you will, that are the 4 general compartments that make up your overall weight. So when you stand on the scale, all you know is how many pounds or kilograms that you weigh. That's all you know. Now, people will mistakenly think that they are succeeding on a diet because there's a change in scale weight that they perceive to be a positive one. This is not necessarily the case. On the other side of the scale, pardon the pun, they will also decide that they're having negative results if they're gaining scale weight. And again, not necessarily the case. You see, muscle mass is approximately 20% heavier per inch or per centimeter than fat mass is. So, to put it another way, fat mass will take up more space. In other words, the more fat you have, the larger clothing sizes you're going to need. Whereas with muscle mass, you're going to be putting on a great deal of muscle mass before you have to increase your clothing size. Now, initially, for the majority of people who are concerned about their weight, and again, that's incorrect, but we'll use that term for right now because that's what everybody equates it to. They're thinking about, well, I'm going to lose scale weight. That means I've had a positive outcome, and of course my clothes are going to get smaller. Well, that may happen for some, and it may happen for a short period of time, but not forever. Because if you change your body composition correctly, if you change your body composition in a healthy way, you will eventually begin to gain weight. In fact, it's going to work something like this. If you start on the only scientifically validated, scientifically documented way to diet, which is safe and effective for all metabolic types, then what will happen at first is that the majority of people will in fact lose some degree of scale weight. So they will see a loss in pounds or kilograms. At some point, however, if they are doing this correctly, if they are doing the healthy thing to change their body composition in a positive way, then at some point they will plateau. So they stand on the scale one day and they say, oh my gosh, I'm not losing weight anymore. Maybe I better starve myself further, which is another mistake that dieters have made, probably since the beginning of time, I imagine. And this is the problem. You see, you will begin to put on muscle mass in a small amount here and there if you're doing the right thing. That is, maintaining the proper diet and increasing your level of physical activity. If you increase your muscle mass, even in a small way, while you decrease your fat mass, and at the same time you maintain your bone mass, and understanding that water weight fluctuates all day, all night, every day, so we're ruling the water weight out right now. So if you do these 3 things correctly, you will at some point begin to gain scale weight while you are losing clothing sizes. You're going to have to put yourself into smaller and smaller clothing sizes as you are actually gaining weight, because muscle mass weighs more than fat mass per inch or per centimeter. This is why we need to focus on changing body composition, not on losing weight. We need to start by psychologically reframing this for ourselves, where we are going to say fat loss as opposed to weight loss. And really, I know you've heard this before, and you've certainly heard it from me, and you'll hear it again, no doubt. You need to take that scale and just throw it out, because the scale is not a way to measure your results. It is a way to loosely and very inaccurately estimate the results of your diet. Now, if you've made up your mind and you're going to start doing the right thing and you're going to do the right diet and you're going to begin doing physical activity, and you notice I avoid the word exercise, but you're increasing your physical activity, if you're doing these things all correctly, then all the scale is going to do is frustrate you. And in fact, I have seen this repeatedly with people who are actually succeeding. They're actually doing the right thing. They're really getting good, healthy results. Their clothing sizes are getting smaller, but they stand on the scale one day and they say, wow, I've gained 2 pounds. Here I had lost 5, but now I've gained 2. Well, what have they gained? If they gained 2 pounds of fat mass, that would be serious, that would be a problem, and they have failed. But if they've gained 2 pounds of muscle mass, they have in fact succeeded. You see, the vast majority of the activity in your body that allows you, or perhaps we should even say causes you, to be able to convert stored body fat into energy, and that's why we have stored body fat, to be that extra energy for us when we need it. And if you're doing this correctly, you're doing it from muscle mass. The more muscle mass you have, the easier and more efficient and more effective it is to do this. So this is why you need to concentrate on the idea of fat loss, not weight loss. I get so frustrated when I'm going to events and I'm going to meetings and I hear people they're on a diet plan and they say, I've lost X pounds. And I get really frustrated by that because I do not care how many pounds you've lost. I want to know how much fat you've lost. Losing pounds is meaningless. In fact, sometimes it's unhealthy. So what we have to be sure of is that you are losing fat mass. Now, understanding that fat is lighter than muscle mass per inch, as those inches or centimeters are going down, as the clothing sizes are getting smaller, you're going to be less and less impressed with the scale weight change, and eventually it's going to be going up. Now, if you're on a diet plan, and I see these things all the time, they're advertised like crazy, and they make me crazy, because they mislead the general public into thinking that there are some quick, simple, easy gimmicks, some magic that will allow you. I mean, some of these claims are so absurd. You'll lose 10 pounds in 1 week. Folks, if you've lost 10 pounds in 1 week, you did not lose mostly fat. You lost mostly muscle. And that's not good. That's going to come back and bite you. Folks, if you're going to be able to lose the fat and keep the fat off to change your body composition in a positive way, you've got to have muscle mass to do that. And if your scale weight is going down in what seems to be a miraculous way, folks, you're not losing mostly fat. You're just not. And it's not healthy. Of course, everybody's in a big hurry. We see this pattern all over the planet. It's not just among Americans who probably, well, we have one of the highest rates of excess body fat of any of the nations in the world. And of course, that varies with the statistics from the World Health Organization a couple of times a year when that comes out. But We, as Americans, are certainly among the worst, but we're not unique because the problem worldwide is the same. We have the same misconception about diet, the same misconception about diet gimmicks, the same misconceptions about scale weight, the same misconceptions about body mass index. So this is a global problem. In fact, if you look at statistics from the World Health Organization, they tell us that the two most serious threats to human health right now are not the things you might think of. I mean, you might name any number of dramatic and terrible things that you've seen on the evening news, but get a grip here, folks. World Health Organization says the two biggest threats are excess body fat and blood sugar abnormalities. And guess what? The blood sugar abnormalities are primarily caused by excess body fat. So we're right back to that one again. Yep. Biggest, again, pardon the pun, really the biggest problem on the planet right now for overall health concerns. So it is very, very important that we get rid of the old paradigm, the old way of thinking. That includes BMI. What is the body mass index? The body mass index, the BMI, is simply a ratio of height to weight. All right? Height to weight. Now, once again, we've already established that the weight doesn't tell you anything. It tells you that you're X number of pounds or kilograms, but that's all it tells you. It doesn't tell you how much of you is fat, muscle, bone, and water. So you take that already inaccurate estimate of weight, you now do a mathematical ratio to your height, and your height is unlikely to change for the majority of your adult life. And in fact, during the course of a so-called weight loss intervention program or a diet, it is unlikely to change at all. So BMI is essentially a measure of weight. And weight is not accurate. BMI is not accurate. In April of 2015, I completed a study of nearly 4,000 test subjects. And these test subjects were taken from all 50 of the United States. They represented all of the major racial and ethnic groups, both genders, of course, and a wide range of age, from 17 up to 79. And this study showed beyond any doubt that BMI is virtually useless in terms of being able to measure how much of you is muscle, how much of you is fat, how much of you is bone, and of course, how much of you is water. It is useless. This same study showed that scale weight is useless. We need to know what our body composition is. Our body composition improvement index, which by the way was an index first postulated by Dr. Gilbert Cates. And so far, there hasn't been a great deal of study done with this yet, other than the study that I published in April of 2015, and of course a long list of work and research that's been done by Dr. Cates and several of his colleagues to further shore up this data. So, the first thing I want you to stop doing is talk about how many pounds you've lost. The second thing I want you to do is when you're talking to people about using the latest, the best, the most scientifically validated technologies to help you improve your body composition, that is to decrease your fat mass while maintaining, and in some cases increasing, your muscle mass and maintaining your bone mass. So if you're doing this, you need to talk to people in the same way. You need to talk to them about fat loss, not weight loss. You need to tell them to stop talking about how many pounds of change. Because if you lost 5 pounds and 3 of it was muscle, you did not have a 5-pound positive outcome, did you? So this is very, very important to get this very clear in your mind and I know the temptation. Gosh, I know it. I understand it. Every human being that I know of has either owned a scale or has a scale available, and that's what they always do. And everybody talks about how much they weigh, and everybody talks about how much weight change they had when they went on this diet or that diet. Now, folks, what you may not know, some of you may have heard this before, some of you may not have heard this before. But you see, if you lose muscle mass, it will be difficult, it will be more difficult this time you diet, and make no mistake, you know what you're going to do. You're probably not going to stay with a lifestyle change forever. You'll probably reach a certain goal, or at least you think you've reached a certain goal. Now, if you've lost muscle mass, which is almost a certainty on the vast majority of diets, you now make it more difficult for yourself to lose fat the next time you go on a diet cycle. And the next time, and the next time. This is how the yo-yo dieting ends up making people get to a stage where their body has now adapted to what they've done in this sort of yo-yo diet scenario that we talk about. And now what happens is they finally get to the point where losing any amount of fat is close to impossible. And they become insulin sensitive. And now they begin to gain body fat, not just scale weight, but body fat, in a big way. The only way to break this cycle is to change the way we think and to change all of those old paradigms, just throw them out the window. And we're going to talk about the correct diet, the only diet that has been validated to work in all metabolic types effectively. The only diet that is not going to cause any potential health problems. Because almost every one of those fad diets, even just low-cal, is going to be a problem for so many people. So with this in mind, we will talk about the right way to diet. And it'll sound complicated at first, but it isn't, folks. It truly is not. And we will, in future broadcasts, talk about activity, things that you can do to increase your metabolic rate through physical activity. And of course, we will talk about the technologies that at this point in time are the best technologies that I know of that have been scientifically validated. I'm not talking about gimmicks. I'm not talking about shortcuts, but because, folks, shortcuts are going to come back and bite you. So as you tune in for this series of broadcasts, you need to make up your mind up front. Are you content with getting on and staying on the yo-yo cycle? Or do you want to actually be healthy? Can you commit? I know that's a tough one. Can you commit to making a lifestyle change that can result in some of the healthiest possible aspects of things that you can possibly do for yourself, not just for the short term, so you can look better in whatever clothing you're trying to get yourself into, or look better at the beach, or however that goes, but to actually be healthy and stay healthy throughout the rest of your life. Folks, this will require lifestyle change. This will require commitment. Now, it's going to sound a lot tougher than it really is, but you need to make up your mind, because if you're not willing to, I'm not going to talk to you on these broadcasts about gimmicks. I'm not going to talk, that's what so many companies do. In fact, all that I'm aware of. They're shortcutting you on calories? Will you lose scale weight and some inches or centimeters if you shortcut calories for a while? Yep, if you starve yourself, you will. But that will come back and bite you. And it will get worse every time. In fact, U.S. federal statistics indicate that the average dieter who's doing exactly what I'm talking about right now, the average dieter actually gains 25% more scale weight than they lost on their diet after they quit their diet, because almost everyone quits. They don't do a lifestyle change. They gain back 25% more scale weight than they lost, and the alarming thing is that as much as 75%, in some cases even more, of the scale weight that they gain back is fat. And as much as 75% of what most of the people had lost was muscle. Think of the net result here. I mean, you are becoming a big puffy doughboy real quick. And you are working your way to some of the worst possible health problems you can ever possibly imagine. So often in our society, I see people as they grow chronologically older, and they say, well, I'm getting older, so my doctor says now it's time for me to take this medication and that medication. You know what? In the majority of cases, you don't have to go there. Take care of yourself. You need to get yourself on the right program, which is a lifestyle change directed towards having healthy body composition. Not how much you weigh, healthy body composition. You want to be more muscle than fat. You want to maintain your bone density. Also, we see with many diet programs that individuals that go on low-cal and low-fat diets have lost bone mineral density in the process. Yes, that has weight also. So, folks, you don't want to be there. So this is the beginning of several broadcasts that we're going to talk about in terms of changing our body composition in a positive way, changing the paradigm. And you can be among the first. As you listen to this right now, understand that you can be the leader for everyone you know. You can be the trend setter. You can be the style setter. You'll be the one that says, you know what? That old info is, well, it's old, it's out of date, and it's been proven wrong scientifically. Now, you want to talk about fat loss, not weight loss. And you want to talk about changing your body composition, not just changing your scale weight. All right, my friends, this is the conclusion of today's broadcast. We will pick up on this in our next broadcast. And again, we will be talking about the diet recommendations for you, physical activity that you can do to improve your overall health, as well as your body composition. And of course, technologies that you can use, that you can take every day to help you achieve your changes in body composition in the most positive way, as quickly, as efficiently, and as healthily as you possibly can. So until we speak again next Monday, this is Dr. Steve Nugent wishing you a very healthy, happy, and prosperous week.
Thank you, Dr. Nugent. All of Dr. Nugent's broadcasts are available at manatechlive.com under the Hear from the Doctors tab and listed by broadcast number and date with search capabilities by subject. As a reminder to our listeners, if you have any questions regarding this program, please send an email to ccqa@manatech.com.